Welcome back. We're back at it again. Thought I was going to stream last week, but for some reason I decided to get sick and couldn't do it. So anyway, here we are back again on the Simple Survival server, and I think I showed you around a good bit of my base here last time, and I wanted to work on doing some building this week. So we're going to, first of all, get rid of these shulkers. I was doing a lot of clearing out. I have a lot of these bad boys stored up, so we don't want to keep them in here. So gonna get rid of that. Gonna get rid of that. And these are just, let's see, get rid of that. Place these down. Okay, take care of them later. Alright, so I've been clearing out around the perimeter. I think I showed around, let's see, let's go back there and see. So I just wanted to make this area over here like more of a standard dimensions, like completely even. So I've decided it's going to be 18 by 18 chunks that we're working with. So I cleared us all the way back from there and then straight across. So I actually have a center of this build. And I've been around clearing out a lot of the build that I didn't like it not being symmetrical and stuff. So we have a center, and the center is not here, but over here. So this is the very center of my plot, or not the whole plot, but this underground thing. So I want to build a tower like this here, if not the same one, which I realize this one's built on odd numbers, so it won't fit on an even center unless I adapt it a little bit, but it's possible. It's possible. So I've already taken some screenshots of how this looked, so I can try to replicate it, but that would still be, like I say, a little difficult. I mean, I say that, not too much. If you just make another one of these single strips in the stairs and then copy that across, it's doable. That's for another day, though. We're just here to talk about some general building in Minecraft. So let me get my notes up real quick. Notes. Here we go. Okay, so, wrong notes. That's for other recordings. 1 second. Okay, building in Minecraft. So, a lot of y'all are familiar with types of builds in Minecraft. Let me find my supplies here. Oh, way over there. You know, in your vanilla world, you have the villages that are built out, and a lot of us start off with that. I know the standard dirt huts for your first night build are pretty common, but obviously you want to get better than that. So you're gonna get your wood out here. A lot of people start off with just the basic corners like that, and then they just put something like this, and then your next wall like that. This is a very flat style of building. It's a starting point. Like mixing blocks together like that looks better than just like all stone. Having your corners like this, and then you go around the corner. It looks more interesting than all stone, but there's better ways to do it. So if you like the flat style and you work with that, I know I've seen a lot of resurgence of that, but not simple like this. So with the palette that we have here, it's not that great. It's a little boring to begin with, but what you want to do to make flat interesting, if you're going to stick with flat, is you start working with gradients. So instead of just that, we're going to find other gradients that kind of take us from the stone on up to some other color. Even like I would not probably use this gradient by itself, but just going from like a dark stone, having this, see how it kind of fades from the dark into the more lighter stone there. And you would make it a larger area of this. You wouldn't necessarily have straight lines of this. You kind of make a pattern that would work within that. So making flat interesting, you can use different types of blocks to do a gradient, and then as you see you back off from this, you kind of see how they fade together a little more than just that. So you can make flat interesting, but you've got to work with it. And things like this, blocks like this, they add kind of a bit of a feel of a shadow. So like next to this, you might have a shadow. If you don't have a full 3D effect going on, you're going to have to put a shadow there with what you're building with. So that's one style of doing building, if you're going to make it flat. However, after flat, so we're talking way back at the beginning of Minecraft, people started building stuff. They realized that flat isn't always interesting. And really gradients weren't as readily available because there wasn't much of a block palette at the beginning of the game, right? When it first came out, we didn't have all the concretes, all the different wood variants, things like that. Even all the different stone variants that we have, like we have diorite and tough, andesite, granite, things like that. So you weren't able to make flat look as interesting with gradients as we can now. So there has been a resurgence, and a lot of builders are bringing the flat design back and just making it look better, having the appearance of shadows, having the gradients, things like that. So the next thing that we would work with is you'd have, you can see it in a lot of these builds that I do here, you'd have some depth. So we'd put our corners up, odd numbers seem to work better, and then you'd recess your walls back like this, right? Oh, don't want to go up that high. You recess your walls back just a block, and that gives you a little more interest, a little more depth to it. So then, like within the game, even with lights on here, you get some natural shadows from the lighting that come in there and help kind of differentiate. You can see that over here. It's particularly, let's say this bottom one here. You can get that, and then we've added some stairs down here to kind of bring it out. So you start with that. You give it some depth with your walls. You put your pillars out, whatever they're going to be, whether they're wood or use two different types of stone, like use a stone brick or something, and then a flat stone for your walls. So you start adding depth, and then another way to do that is instead of just having full blocks of glass for your windows, you use a pane. So that recesses it back a half block, and it gives you a little more depth on what's going on here. So we use the pillars, then we have walls, and then we recess back to kind of add the more depth there. Another thing to do for depth is your fences and walls like this. This is a fence here. You have your stone walls and such, different varieties of that. So you can see how on this I've added those fences to kind of give it another layer of depth. So we have out here the full block, we go in a half, and then we have this wall here, and then this is recessed even more. So it's not just a flat wall with this being even with that, and then the glass blocks coming out too. We have a little more interest to it. Along with that same idea, coming up here and like you can see, it's always good when you have a large area like where this background would be with the stone to add your add some other block. This andesite works great with regular stone, so you kind of give it a little more interest there. So if these weren't here at all, I'm just going to break these out. You can see how this large area would kind of look boring. So if we add just a little streak of that, we can come in and kind of make it a little better. But then like your stairs, like this, kind of making a pattern. This looks like supports that come through here, and just staggering them back and forth. Does that look right? Yeah, I did that right. Okay. That adds a little more interest to it as well. It kind of breaks it up where you don't have just this large patch of one material. Now it can be done well, kind of more of a brutalistic style of just having one large wall of a material. It can work. But even breaking it apart, you can see like this walkway. I've taken some of this cracked stone here and just broke a few places out and added some of that in there to kind of make this patio area not quite as flat. And you can see how along the edges I've had a different block there. So start by adding some depth. Make your pillars come out in your walls. Use some other things to kind of add some definition to that. Make some patterns to break up the large areas. You can see how that does add depth and shadows to it as well. You want to do that. And then you want to talk about other things you can add to it, adding other interest. Outline your shapes. So when we have one solid block making a roof, for instance, you can see here, we've got this polished andesite roof, but just having it by itself would be one thing. So they took this polished tough block and we've lined the roof with it. So we made an outline of the roof to kind of draw some interest. One of the creative build servers that I was on, the guy there, and I forget the name, but that was one of the things, like you've got to outline it to make it look nice. Same thing I did up here with this wood roof. And I've done a few other things to bring out some interest, to add a little texture to it. But taking the spruce here and outlining the oak slabs with it to kind of bring it out, and it draws the interest a little more. It doesn't look just like this all oak thing. But then within that, just making this scalloped edge like this, having, and this is probably more often than you need to, but just adding some in here. And sometimes I'll alternate up and below, so one above, one below, one above, one below, to kind of make the pattern a little more, like it's not just this flat roof like this one. I'll probably come down there and do that, just give it more interest, but it's fine as it is, I think. Excuse me. But yeah, that's one thing to do, outlining your edges. I didn't do that up here, other than like we have the stairs and then the slabs inside of it. This looks like just a flat roof that we did there. So those are ways to add interest to what you're doing, outlining with shapes. You can do details like buttons. This is a good alternative to windows. So I have just like a black concrete or wool behind it, but you're having these iron bars here. There's a little depth. Looks like it's a little, something going on there. You can even come in here and recess it back a little more and have a light over to the side that kind of shines through. Give it a little warmth inside there. Trap doors, buttons. Let's see here. Like down here for these pillars, instead of just building a separate pillar out, I just have these trap doors that kind of make a slight difference in the distance there. It's not like, it doesn't stick out. The color actually sticks out more than the size of it does, but it kind of protrudes out a little bit, so you have a little something going on. This is an area that's more flat, but we have a different block here. And we talked about making flat interesting. We have a different block here that kind of gives it a little more of a texture than just stone bricks. If I put stone bricks here as well, it wouldn't look the same. And we have that lining. And you can see here we have tough blocks with andesite lining the edges of that. So just having a different block, even if it's the same class, like you have deep slate here with deep slate, smooth deep slate, I think is what this is called, blocks. And you can see here we use upside down stairs with just the full blocks there to kind of line this. But yeah, those are a few little things as far as building to add some interest to it. And honestly, it's fine to just do your main build. Like with this, just if I was to put the pillars of spruce logs in, and then the wall of just this tough brick in the background, I would start with that and then come back, and you can see making another pass, adding in these stairs with the pink wool behind it. It's just to add another area of interest to it. So do it in steps. You don't want to have to come out all at once. Some people are good at doing that, but I've watched a lot of good builders that, and I find it interesting, they'll just come in with a basic thing. Let's say we're just going to throw in, see, like this. You're going to throw in your pillars here, throw in your wall there, and then you could come back and add another pass and add some details. This is very undetailed, by the way, but like, I don't want to draw a lot of attention to the base of this, right? I'm not trying to do that. So we're just doing that. Come back another pass. You could add more if you wanted to, but areas you don't want to draw attention to, it's okay to be more brutalistic and just have like the solid material there. Nothing wrong with that when that's what you're going for. So, but yeah, the other thing is then once you know what you're doing with your building, you want to try to find a good palette. Now this thing is meant to be, and I'm really experimenting. I've seen a lot of people do it. I just don't do it well. Like a collection of buildings, like it's built over time. Like they started with one thing and then they added this other, but you can see they're different build styles because each group that came through and added to it, they had a different build style that added to it. It kind of adds to the lore of an area, and that's something you want to think about with larger builds, is like how they added to it and how it was originally there. Like say maybe this platform had something on it, but over time that broke down and they came in and cleared it out and added another build on top of it, and other people came back and added some other things. So as you build stuff, you want to have your lore to that as to how that came about. So think about that when you're doing a build. And then your palette, like you can see here, like for this building, I stuck with tuff and different styles of tuff, spruce wood. I've got some deep slate in there for this roof or ceiling, and then this roof was andesite. Place them out. Just take your blocks, place them out side by side, see how they look together, and just see what you think of that. And try to stick with that as your palette, whatever it is. for the building you're doing. Come back, see what other blocks might complement that. Like for instance, this is pretty good, but we might want to have something in the oh come on, where's it at? In the andesite range, and this is just some andesite slabs. Like maybe we'll see how that goes along with it. See how it blends in there, and you can see these really work well together. This adds a little more texture versus that even. So just seeing how they go together. What else can you do with that? Do I want to have anything like these? I gotta put two of them together so you see how they spread out. Like these iron bars here. You could do that as well. Chiseled stone brick. That's just another texture of the stone brick as well. So that goes along with this well. Find other variants that work within that palette. You don't have to have the same exact block every time, but yeah. So this whole collection here is just what I've been working with for this build and that build. I really like building with deep slate. I probably use it a little too much. And if we go up top here, let's see, front, we'll fly up from there. You can see I've pulled out deep slate for this, lining these things here. Then just kind of get creative with things like this build up here. I've redone a few times, but you can see there's a lot of deep slate. We have stone brick. We have this tinted glass. We have some black concrete in the corners. The roof is ugly, but we just added a little interest to what's going on here. When it came to these crates, these containers, it's basically you've got your concrete, and then we've added buttons to look like rivets or whatever, and then whatever the iron bars for that, some iron trap doors, things like that would add interest to it. When I was doing these areas here, these halls, as it were, I stuck with a really strict palette for that. We've got our smooth stone slab for the base, the walking area with the stone bricks, and then for these pillars across here, I use the actual spruce logs. Dark oak trapdoors go pretty well, and this is a kind of nice. That wasn't the intention when they made the trap doors, but for a ceiling material, these look really nice. I think they look a little more refined. And then we have our spruce stairs and slabs in there, and I just repeated this pattern over and over. Now this is, again, there isn't much detail in this, but being repeated like that, it makes it look nice. And then we went with stripped spruce logs in a checker pattern for our walkways lined with these stone steps, and we just repeated that. So like for areas like this, there's just a lot of repetition. You could do things like that, make it look good, and just use it over and over. That does get monotonous. Of course, I have areas where beacons shine through here, and we have to have a transparent block for that. I chose to use iron trap doors because they work well. Of course, with slabs like this, it goes through, and you can see up there I have a copper trap door because it blends in well with the moss, or fairly decent with the moss that I have above it right there. Better than other alternatives anyway. So that's how I do a lot of the building with this. Your edges, I mean, it's good to define your path. That's why we could just go straight with these half slabs into this, but like it just doesn't look as nice as having like this little trench here to kind of define it. And honestly, you could waterlog these steps here and have like a water stream that goes around the path if you wanted to add some more interest to it as well. I've used that somewhere. I'm trying to remember where I did that at, but I've forgotten. But that was kind of the palette I'm using here. So sticking with blocks that go with that is a good way to kind of define what's going on with this area. This ventured a little off with those iron bars, but trying to stick with a pattern and making these walls out of this stripped birch was a choice to kind of make them different than what's going on here, but they still complement well. The wood colors all go pretty well together, the wood colors that we have in here. And then I wanted this area to be a bit different with the layer that I started my first video off in, first stream. So you can see we have like the larger pillars with these stripped spruce blocks here, and then above these trapdoors we have more birch I just thought it looked cool to have these trapdoors with something behind it. And you could, I mean, there's so many varieties of blocks you can put in just about any block that would go behind this. Even other variants of this mangrove, with those being mangrove trapdoors, would look good behind that. So you can just kind of figure out what works. And again, just place your blocks down, see how they go together. But these go good. I think this tough looks good with the deep slate. That's typically where we find it. And of course, these cauldrons go great with the deep slate as well. So this area was just stuff like that. And again, with adding interest, I like to take a cauldron, fill it with water, and just put some leaves on top of it. When it comes to doing plants, try to vary your leaves sometimes. Don't make it all the same leaf, because that gets boring. But I haven't made a sweep through here, so you can do this deep slate tile. Having deep slate bricks, like, let's see, I don't have any on me. Like the deep slate, but like that brick pattern there. I could break some of these out, add that in there, and then some other blocks like that to add some interest. I haven't done that in here yet. That's one way to kind of break the pattern up, make it look a little better. Some builders have a thing where they don't want to have more than like a 3x3 area of the same block. So if it was a 4x4 or something, they would break it up with some other blocks. Like with Tough, you might find another block that complements it and goes next to it, and can do that. So add some interest with your block varieties. Add some interest with other things. These little pots go great on top of these, right on top there, and then you can put your plant in there for it. Little fireplace I did here. Then back out front here. But yeah, as far as building buildings, and I don't have a ton of buildings in this build, a lot of structures, I guess. I really don't like doing roofs. Let's go back down. Base, that's down there at the bottom. Yeah, other than this one corner that I've started building in, I don't have a ton going on. So this is a more recent build. I think I talked about wanting a place where the villagers can work at downstairs and then come up here. Yeah, interest. You want to find things that add interest to it and don't take away. Like for this, I thought of the theme. These are Fletchers. What are we going to do in there? This is another use of those pots. Not the flower pots, but they're just the full pots. I put 2 moss blocks on top, and these are all basically the same. Make a plant out of that, you know. They have their workstations. We have some useful chests in the corners for putting supplies for me. But then out here, it's kind of a work area. So we have like sand, we have the sandstone, and then just transition to flint or gravel. And then we have our target blocks and wool blocks there. Things that all work well together. Just to add a little interest to the build. And then out front, we just have this patio. I made these little planter things. I don't really know what to call them, but they seem to look okay. And then we just have trap doors. If we break this trap door, if we close this trap door, that's going to pop off. Maybe not. No, that's right. Little pots like that don't go away. They stay. So putting that outside the windows is another way to add interest. I have to come in here eventually, and they're upstairs, which there is no easy way to get to this. We haven't really detailed it. These details that add interest, I haven't done much to this. We have this top because your front changes there, so I took that all the way around here. So we can do something to break that up, whether it's like putting a shelves across here or just making their roof stop or their ceiling stop here if we wanted to. Another way is to have like a step right there. I don't have any on me. Placing a step and then another block above that to make a ceiling. So you can kind of fade into that if you want to. Oop, they're waking up. So I can get out here. No, I can't. But yeah, this was hard to avoid. Villagers spawn iron golems, so that's just a natural thing that's going to happen there. Finding different ways to decorate out. These stairs also make good benches. You can put different things on there. You can put signs on it and just add a pattern on the sign, which is what I did here. Trap doors work great on the ends for benches to kind of give it some ends, or even just a single one to make a chair. And then as you saw in the I can't type there. Here, I just took a slab and put 2 trap doors behind it to make this chair here, whereas these are just plain stairs. And this is 2 upside down stairs, upside down slab with some wool on top to make a desk of sorts. So different ways you can add interest to your build. But yeah, I want to work on doing some actual building down there. Let me go back. V1. This takes me to my villagers, right outside there, my librarian's place. But yeah, let me tear this back out. I don't like leaving junk around. I say that, having left a lot of junk around. Let's see here. Let's get back to actual building. So if we're going to do that, it's there, that goes there. I tell you what, inventory management has not gotten easier over the years with this game. And I know some of the YouTubers I watch talk about that. I really wish there'd be something in one of these updates that Minecraft does that works on that. But there hasn't been anything. So, alright. So, for this area here, I want to tear that down. It's not the center. We want to build something over here that would be. So, the question is, would it be better to recreate this with an even number spacing or do something entirely different? So if any of my ones of viewers are watching, comment on what do you think would be better. Should we try to recreate this tower in even numbers, or should we just build a different tower based on even numbers here? Even numbers aren't always the best in Minecraft, I've found over the years. They can be. For things like this, the good thing with even numbers is you can do doors, double doors like this. Odd numbers don't allow for that unless you like offset it. So if this was the center of a build on an odd number, we'd come over to another side, have a double here and a double here. You can do double doubles on odd numbers, but for I keep opening my door back up. But for this, you can't really do that. So odd numbers allow for single doors or double doubles off the sides, but even numbers allow you to have like a double entrance in there. They do allow for things that the odds don't, but honestly it can be frustrating. So obviously I would move this over, link that up to my nether. I don't have any builds in the nether just because the nether gets reset sometimes on here. It hasn't been reset since I've been on. But it does get reset, so there's kind of, or it can be reset. So although we can claim land there and build, it's just not advisable because it can disappear. We don't like things to disappear, especially not when we work hard. So one thing I like about this server is they don't just reset every now and then. There are some servers that like to do seasons, they reset, everything's gone. But no, here it's going to be long term. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken all the time to dig this giant hole out. So, yeah. So that's what's going on here. We can definitely duplicate this same thing in an even base tower, or I could come up with something else. And we can talk about how we work through that. Should I have a staircase that goes around it, that goes up to the top? This was really built based off of what was previously here, and I had like walkways that came in from the halls into here, and then we walked around and had a hallway over here and an angle on this one too. One thing you want to try to work your way out of is symmetry in your builds. Although like this is very symmetrical. We do have this stairway that goes up, that leads up to another place, and I think it's great to have places where you do symmetry, but you want to work on being able to not always have straight lines in Minecraft. Breaking out of that, like instead of like doing a straight walkway, you could have it go at an angle, and that could be like 3 blocks, shift over 1, 3 blocks, shift over 1, or any number like 5 blocks, shift over 1, 4 blocks, shift over 1, something like that to kind of throw off your pattern. Figure out a way to make that work. And a lot of these walkways I had up top were like that. I've torn them out now, but like breaking out of that, straight lines, symmetry. Like even this is at an angle. This is a 45, which is a good start. 45s are easy to work with just because they're still even across there, you know, and you can do that. So work with 45s. Try building an entire house in 45s. That's a challenge. And then take it smaller than that. Try to build it at a different angle. That's another way, like we talked about adding interest to a build. That's another way to add interest to a build. Try to do it. See what it's like. I was building on one map a guy was working on, and we're building a whole city. And I'm like, you know what? He's like, try building in not 90s. So we've got 90s going this way, 90s going this way. You could build houses that way, but what about right here? Build a house at a 45. See what it looks like. See if you can get something interesting within that. And then you know what? Build it at less than a 45. I don't know all my angles, but let's see here. Let's go back. Let's go grab some blocks real quick. D for Dave. Home D is where we're going at. So let's just grab some dirt here. I've got a ton of that. Boom, boom. Let's go back there. Back. So your standard thing is just going like at 90s. People do that all the time. That's wonderful. 45s will just give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to kind of think about what's going on with that. That's great. All right. If you can start building 45s, you're going to have a little more interest in your builds for cities and all that. But let's talk about this. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So let's say that's our line. What are we going to do then? Then we've got to come over this way and do the same thing. So that one's going to go 1, dun, 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 dun. What about that? What about that angle? Can we build a house with an angle like that? Shoot, give it a try. It really gives you a different layout inside. And again, like seeing houses built like this, like it's a little more organic if we can go with angles other than the 90s like that. So even 45s add a little bit more. And just experiment around with your building. Again, with adding interest to it. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Then we're going to go boom, 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 boom. Oh, I ran out of that dirt. Let's get that back here. Could you build a house like that? Right? Obviously, roof lines and such start getting a little more interesting, a little more challenging. So right now, the builds I have, these are all 90s. I haven't really dug into it much. Just getting started. I didn't want to challenge myself right off. But as I get into building what's going to be down here, the city or such, I want to do more builds like this, okay? Challenge yourself to do something a little more out of the ordinary. And these, just a few basic shapes, 40s. I don't know if that's a 33 degree. I don't know where I'm at with that. It's not 90 and it's not 45. So honestly, these are the same angle. Your other way to do would be like, let's see, if you did 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's going to change your angle a little bit too, right? So repetitive patterns on your sides, that does make it tricky sometimes. Like when we talked about the 3D effect like we have in this house, making this 3D, then you've got to think, all right, so if this was the main corner, where would I come out? Would I come out and put a pillar right here? All right, and then where would it be over here then? Like, is it here? You know, I mean, just finding ways to kind of change things around, add interest, but you don't want it to look stupid. And sometimes, I guess that's the challenge. People are afraid it's going to look stupid, so they don't try weird angles to do builds in. But if you can get flexible with it and try to do some cool angles like this in your builds, and then like, so let's say we do this, how are you going to add on, say, like for this thing, if I was going to have, and this is a really small one, let's say I have a, let me get more dirt, hold on. Did not plan on doing this. So say we don't have a standard. Let's see, if I'm going to do 5s, and then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and another thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another thing here. So if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. So if this was your basic outline, like sometimes you'd come out a little bit, and let's say you have a we're gonna change it up a little bit, and then from here we're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. Right, okay, and let's say that came on along here and cut back in. So having areas like this, I would probably bring it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. So let's forget all this craziness that happened back here. And so you're building a house that's not perfectly square, and you do your walls, your outline design like this, which is common. You'd have like an area, like a porch or whatever that sticks out on a house, and then that. So how are we going to do that with an angled build? You know, finding out how to, because this adds interest to your build. Let's say we're going to come on back here. We're going to do a. I'll tear this out later. I did not do something right. That's always fun. Is that it? Yeah, that's probably it. So that would have been, my count's off. Either way, that kind of an idea. So how do we do like this L-shaped thing in either a 45 or this other angle that we have here? Find ways to play around with it. This is what's going to make your build stand out compared to other people. There's a lot of people that build really great in 45s or 90s. You can, amazing looking houses, but if you take that same thing and you bend it to a different angle, you got an entirely different feel to it, and like at a different level. So if you can make an angled one look good, then you've taken your build to a whole nother level. And that's kind of what you want to work on. I think we're going to look at some of those as we build stuff down here. And for those that end up finding this video on YouTube later, we're going to do some other games streaming on here. I want to check out some other games as well on this channel. And yeah, I think that's about it. We're coming up on a good little thing. I'm going to try to keep these things short to begin with and kind of take it from there. For those that were wondering what this QR code is, feel free to check it out. All right, thank ya. I think that's going to wrap it up. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you later.